Hi, and welcome to the FTB Sports Review Show. I hope everyone is well today. I'm here, my name's Karleigh Osborne, and I'm joined by Adam and Karl, and we'll be debating all things football today on today's show. How are we, gents?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm well, thank you. Good weekend?
Yeah, good.
Good stuff. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, looking forward to the show. Been a few crazy results this weekend and some good decisions and things like that to talk about. So looking forward to it.
Definitely some good talking points, I'll say.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into it then.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Good
Adam?
stuff.
Yeah. There's some big games to talk about, so let's do it.
Happy
Nice,
days.
let's get going then. I think you might be wanting to ask me some questions, Adam, considering I'm the host or something. I think that's happening.
Yeah, that's it, mate. I'll just get my questions up.
I hope they're not too bad.
So the first one was, when did your professional career start? And was there any reason that you thought it wasn't going to start?
So my professional career, so when I first signed my pro contract, I was 17 years old at Brentford FC. I was a really late developer in terms of football, so I didn't make my school team till I was in year 9. And then from there, I kind of got scouted by quite a few different teams. So I got scouted by the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham, Reading, and QPR. So I went on trial, but was always kind of told no, they wasn't what they was looking for, or they didn't feel I was good enough. Whichever way they wanted to put it, it was the same answer, which was a no. So I ended up doing that for kind of 2 years, and then I went to QPR on trial. I was there for 3 months, but because I went in so late, just before scholarships were given, they'd already given them, and at the time they felt like they couldn't give any more. So I ended up being asked if I wanted to go to Brentford, and I kind of felt like I wasn't really gonna probably make it, but I thought, you know what, I'll just give it one last chance. So I went there, did a trial for kind of 6 weeks, and ended up being given a last scholarship, which was obviously fantastic, considering I thought I wasn't going to make it after being told no so many times. Got my scholarship, and then I think within 3 or 4 months I was involved with the first team, training with them, on the bench a few times, and at the end of that season I made my debut at 17.
Oh, nice.
That's mental. I mean, that's got to be pretty, wowing stuff. Especially at that age.
It was. It just goes to show how quickly football can change, and how the game is based on people's opinions, and 5 people didn't feel I was kind of where I needed to be in terms of what they wanted in their teams and what they wanted in their youth teams. But Brentford did, and I ended up being there for kind of 8.5 years, nearly 9 years in total.
Definitely a good bit of loyalty there towards Brentford.
Yeah, there was. I was local. I still live in the area now. I'm still heavily involved in the club. I manage the women's team. I get to games when I can. I do a bit of commentating there, and I'm involved in one of the shows they put on. So still massively kind of involved with the club, and the club's kind of, I always say the club almost made me a man, because I learned so much at the club through football and through different managers and things like that I had. It's something that's really close to my heart.
Yeah.
I was.
So go again.
I always feel like when I speak to footballers, they always say that a football club helps them grow up quicker.
Yeah, for sure. Your scholarship, the 2-year scholarship you do is kind of all you're learning, and I think it's changed a little bit now. When I came through, we had some really good characters in the first team dressing room, and some old school characters in there. My first team manager at the time was Martin Allen, who was nicknamed Mad Dog. So he, if anyone knows him as a player, he was someone who wore his heart on his sleeve, real good player. But he was a real kind of man's man, and demanded some high standards. So he always pushed us and tested us mentally, as well as physically. And he wanted to make sure that boys were prepared when they come into the first team. They were prepared for what kind of first team football was, and being ready to go and win games and deal with pressure at high levels.
What was the most like challenging aspect is being that young and getting a scholarship at a club like Brentford? And what was challenging?
I think the most challenging thing was kind of how quick you need to learn. And we didn't have a reserve team. So you kind of went from being 16, 17, 18 straight into first team. And if you wasn't ready to play first team, you wasn't getting a pro contract. It was as simple as that.
Yeah,
So you kind of had 2 years, well, not even really full 2 years, 18 months to kind of grow into being a man and being ready to go and play first team football. And it's not kind of just the physical side of it, because naturally, obviously, that takes time to happen. But the mental side of it's the biggest part. Dealing with
yeah,
pressure, dealing with the demand, dealing with going out week in, week out, having to win games and produce good performances consistently. I think that's the toughest bit. But the learning that we had from such a young age, in terms of, even things like, washing a pro's boots on a freezing cold morning, and if they weren't done right and they weren't spotless, you was doing like running, or you'd be fined, and things like that.
yeah,
Cleaning our changing rooms, cleaning the first team changing rooms. If you travelled, doing things like just making teas on the bus, all of those things that a lot of clubs don't probably do anymore, because I think the game's changed a bit. But those principles were good as a young man to learn, to make sure you're ready to do what's asked of you on a pitch.
yeah. Of course. So you really had to work for that opportunity and put
Yeah,
in some goals to get your name noticed and like help the pros out and get yourself
yeah,
really like recognised. So yeah,
it was always, that was, I think that's the key thing. You had to graft, you had to work for it. It wasn't going to be given to you. If you really wanted it, you would have to move heaven and earth to kind of get there and earn it. And I think for me, I look back now, and I realise and appreciate how much that helped me as a person. When you're going through it as a 16, 17-year-old kid, you're just like, you just feel like it's just being worked for the sake of being worked. But when
yeah,
you look
yeah.
back after time, you realise how many principles and how many kind of things were instilled in you to go and then produce and have a career. And I was fortunate enough to have kind of a 16 and a half year career before I retired early. So, I'm thankful for those lessons I learned.
Yeah. You're getting a couple of comments coming in.
Nice.
One of them is determination with a fire emoji, which is obviously a compliment.
Thank you.
And another question: what was your hardest moments while in the game?
My hardest moment. I think one of the hardest moments, especially early on, was losing in the JPT final. It was my first time at Wembley, and my man scored the goal. And we played Karleigh and they won 1-0. And I remember once the goal went in, and obviously we didn't come back and we lost that game. I felt like it was my fault, and it was a real tough kind of pill to swallow. And these things happen. Sometimes you get things wrong and you make mistakes. But I remember the feeling after, as a young man, how I felt like I kind of let the team and the club down, and the kind of almost the weight of 1,000 people or thousands of people on my shoulders just through one lapse of concentration. But then I look back and I think how much that helped me grow in terms of dealing with disappointment, the learning I got from that in those situations and playing in pressure games like that. It was a difficult thing early on in my career, but for me, it definitely felt like I learned so much. And from there, I went on and was able to kind of go into other teams and other clubs and pass certain valuable information on that made and helped us win things.
Okay.
Absolutely mental to be in that situation. How old were you at that time?
So I think I would have just turned maybe 20.
Okay, yeah.
I think I just turned 20. And I had, in my first year as a pro, I had relegation, which again was a tough one. But that was my first year as a pro. So although it hurt me, and I learned a hell of a lot of stuff, the expectation wasn't on me as much. But when I was 20 years old, and obviously being at Wembley, being a focal point of the team at that time, one of the mainstays in the team, there was pressure on me to perform. And I didn't have a bad game, but obviously the lapse of concentration cost us in the team and cost us winning that trophy.
How did the fans react to that? Did you feel pressured or? Like,
The fans were good, to be fair. The fans were really good with me, and I think I'd earned where I was at the club, and how the fans viewed me at that time. So although I'd obviously made that one mistake then, I think the fans were brilliant in terms of remembering the good things I'd done up until that point. And they knew that hurt me, because they knew how much I loved the club as well, being a local boy, and understanding how they all felt. So the fans were fantastic with me, and they said, listen, pick yourself up, brush yourself down, and we go again. It's a fantastic achievement to even be there. We just have to go and do better, and next year.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So who
The
was
next
the
one,
best
Adam,
player?
you've got some tough ones.
Sorry. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I
I've
said
got
you've
some tough ones,
for
mate.
me.
Yeah. Who was the best player you played against?
Best player I played against, I think one of them will be Mikel Arteta. We played Everton in a cup game, which was a fantastic occasion. I think Everton had Fellaini playing, Yakubu played, Arteta played, Phil Neville, James Coleman. You could just keep going on and on and on. And they were a fantastic team. And that was, I remember coming out sort of for the tunnel when you line up just before you go out, and obviously looking across at their dressing room and their team, and thinking this is going to be a very, very tough night. But Arteta was just graceful in everything he did. His touch, his awareness, his understanding of the game. He was fantastic. It was fantastic to kind of share a pitch with the likes of people like that. And fortunately enough for us, we put in a really good performance and ended up winning on penalties, which was amazing. But I remember, dealing with Fellaini and Yakubu up front was hard work. That was a real test of kind of character for me. But being blessed to play against players like that was fantastic.
Is he as tall as he looks on the TV, Fellaini, when he's up against you?
Nah, he is. He's definitely tall, and obviously I'm tall. I'm 6'2". But he made me feel small.
I can imagine so. He's a brilliant player, especially Karl.
Fantastic player. He really is. He really was a really good player, real handful. But like I said, as a team, we was fantastic on the night, put in a fantastic performance, and got the win.
That's what you want, especially at a time like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, incredible result. So, what advice would you give to a young player starting out?
I always think about what advice would I give to kind of the 16-year-old me if I could do it again. And I think the biggest thing would probably be working on the mental side of things. I think sometimes, especially at a young age, that gets lost. And I think more so this day and age, in terms of the way things are with social media, how massive football is now, if you're playing at a high level as well. Everyone kind of can have an opinion when they want to have an opinion, and let you know what the opinion is in regards to like social media and things like that. So you have to mentally prepare for the ups and downs, and also be willing to kind of accept that you're going to make mistakes and do wrong and get things wrong, but it's about how quick you learn from it and how much you're willing to learn, and ultimately just do everything in your power to give yourself the best chance. Take full accountability for everything that you do every day. If you're taking full accountability for your fitness, your technique, the mental side of the game, making sure you're strong and aware of things, tactically making sure you're aware of stuff. I think there's a lot more access in terms of things like YouTube and stuff now. You can watch so many different things, analysis. You can go back and watch your games. Like, just be a real student of the game in all areas, and I think that gives you a good chance.
There's definitely some good feedback there for anyone looking to get into the game. Anyone would have loved to get into the game at that young age, or whenever they could.
Yeah, of course. You just have to never give up. Just keep chasing the dream. Like, for me, I think my story always just kind of says to people that I wouldn't accept no for an answer. And listen, there was many times when I doubted myself and thought it wasn't gonna happen, but somehow I managed to get the boots back on and go to the next one and push and try my best again. So you just have to be willing to never give up and accept that you're going to take criticism, you're going to be told no. But I think one key thing that someone said to me when I was younger was, no just meant not right now, not necessarily forever. And listen, there's so many other ways to kind of make your dream happen. It's just being willing enough to try and find as many ways as you can until you get there.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. That's right. I feel like it's harder for a young player starting out now with social media and everything like that. It's a lot harder.
Oh, for sure. For sure, there's a lot less room for mistakes, because when you make a mistake, then they're on TV as quick as possible. So I came through at a lower level club. Brentford was in League One at the time, and I think it wasn't reviewed the same, if that makes sense. Whereas now, there's access to all 92 clubs. So if you make a mistake on a Saturday, and it will be shown, and from there everyone has an opinion on that. And I think that's why it's so important to mentally be prepared for what you're stepping into. It's the best game in the world and the best job in the world, but it comes with a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges, and you have to be prepared to take them on head first.
I mean, it's not even 100% what happens on the pitch anymore. I mean, young players now get picked up to their lifestyles and the way they go about what they do in life, and their habits and the things they do when they're away with teams, and it's broadcast everywhere now, so there's no escape from it. You've got to be 100% committed and try and keep yourself 100 at all times. So
exactly, and there is no escape, and it's hard for younger players now, because yes, they're in the limelight, yes, they've obviously earned the position they're in and things like that, but there isn't a person in the world that doesn't make mistakes, and especially a young person in the world that doesn't make mistakes. That's how you learn and live life. I think we've all made mistakes that we look back on and think, I wish I didn't do that, or maybe I should have done something differently. But the difference is, if you're a footballer or any sports person or in any kind of high profile job or place, people will have an opinion on it, and they will let you know that opinion too. So it's extremely hard now for younger players to come through and deal with that side of things.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Any more questions for me?
Yeah, one last question from one of the people commenting. Did wages change your mindset and improve you as a player?
Did wages change my mindset?
Yes. Yeah.
I think because I started at a lower league club, you was always striving to go and earn more wages, obviously, and better wages. So I think it depends on how you're kind of motivated. Whether you're kind of intrinsically motivated, which is from stuff within inside, or whether you're extrinsically, which is kind of money, cars, lifestyle, whatever it might be. Obviously, of course, I think most footballers, first and foremost, want to be footballers because they want to be footballers, not because of everything else that comes with it. That's a byproduct. But of course, if you can go and earn more money, you're going to strive to go and try and earn more money and play at the best level you can. I don't think that was personally my biggest driver. I just wanted to I wanted to have a career in football, and I wanted to try and be the best I could be, and play at the best level I could. So that was more my driver. But I think as a young lad at a Premiership club, especially being kind of one of the bigger ones, you can kind of come in and perform well and automatically given a kind of a big contract, so to speak. And maybe it does affect players in terms of the pressure that's now demanded of them because they've now earned that. Like that's just not given to them. They spent years getting themselves in that position to earn those types of contracts. People will think, oh, he's 18 years old or he's 20 years old and he's been given thousands and thousands of pounds, which of course I understand not many young people get that opportunity, but that's been years and years of learning and work, disappointment, failure, overcoming all of those things to get themselves in the position that they're in to earn that kind of contract. So it probably does have an effect to a degree, of course, but I think a lot of players are harshly judged upon that because of kind of the numbers that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's the last question. I think you got some talking points you want to come through.
Oh, good. Are the comments and likes going all right?
Yeah, it's going well. It's going well. We've got some questions that are more for when we talk about the Premier League games and things like that. We've got a few people watching. Yeah, it's going well. It's going well.
Perfect. Okay, so let's move on to the Premier League then. And just before we do move on, do like and comment and subscribe. We'd love to hear your views and things like that. But I think, let's move on to the Premier League. Let's move on to the Premier League proposal. Because I think this is something that does divide a lot of opinions. So it'd be great to kind of hear you guys' opinion on all of this. I think, listen, Karl, let me know. What do you think? What do you think about the proposal, and do you think it works for the EFL, or do you think it's just geared to work for kind of the top six?
Personally, I'd say it's a top six, more of a grab there. I mean, they'll have a lot more say in what happens. I mean, once you've got that sort of power as a club, you can almost tweak things to how you want it to go. In terms of the EFL teams and leagues, I mean, there's other ways we can go about it, other things that we can put in place to like help people that are in need and the clubs that are like struggling at the times that we're in. But I don't think the proposal's correct or tweaking as such, because it's not going to be 100% vote on this proposal. It's going to be split, like you say, 50-50. People are going to have their opinions. It's a tough one to get into. Adam, maybe you've got a better opinion than me. I'm just sat on the fence at the minute. I don't see it going either way. I really don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as you. I don't agree too much with it. The Premier League don't seem too keen on it either. And it only seems to benefit the biggest clubs around and not anybody else. So, yeah, I'm pretty much with you on this one.
Yeah, I think when I look over it, and I think obviously a few of the key things that kind of stand out for me is obviously it was proposed by Liverpool and Manchester United, which I don't feel they're going to propose anything that's not going to benefit them in the long run. Although it might benefit the EFL in the short term, I think in the long term it probably benefits them more. There's the key points are in terms of the Premier League would be cut down to 18 teams. The EFL would stay at 24, and 2 teams would automatically be relegated, which I think is a little bit unfair, but just being relegated out of the league. I think the difficulty with it is, the EFL are in a place now where they need to, they do need help in terms of financially, with no fans being in and all that's happened with COVID. And I think if the EFL does hand over power, so to speak, to kind of Premier League teams or the top 6, probably more in general, I think that's a dangerous way to go. The England team that played against Denmark, I think they had more EFL appearances than Premier League appearances in total, which just goes to show how important the EFL is now in terms of what's coming through the system. I think it gives a place for especially younger players to come through and kind of learn and experience playing in pressure situations, and then pushing on and moving up to the Premier League. You look at players in the England team, to name a few, who have played in lower leagues. You've got people like Harry Maguire, who was at Sheffield United, played in League One, played in the Championship. You've got Tyrone Mings, who's played at a lower level. I think he played at non-league to start, worked his way up, done fantastic, played again in the Championship, League One, clubs like that. Jamie Vardy's story's a fantastic story. Jack Grealish, I played against Jack Grealish when he was at Notts County. These players have all kind of learned and experienced the EFL and lower league clubs, so to speak, and I think that's been a massive part of where they're at now and what they're producing in terms of football now. So for me, I think it's massively important that the proposal, which is called Project Big Picture, is a big picture for all the leagues, not just for the Premier League, and more importantly probably the bigger clubs in the Premier League, so to speak. That's kind of my personal opinion on it.
Well, especially with like the scrapping of the Community Shield and the League Cup. I mean, they're big tournaments for teams that can compete in that. It's not just Premier League, do you know what I mean? That can compete in that sort of cup and show themselves on TV and get themselves out there. If you scrap something like that, then you're scrapping a lot of like football heritage and history. So, I mean, there's going to be a big biting points when it comes down to it. 100%. I mean,
I fully agree with that. Fully. I mean, those cups allow teams like lower down the football pyramid to go and play against Premier League. I talked about how I played against Everton. That was because it was in one of, I think it was the Karleigh Cup at the time or something like that. I got that opportunity because of that. So scrapping those types of cups and community shields and things like that, if you start scrapping cups like that, I think it is damaging in the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's a platform for teams to perform.
Yeah.
In hindsight, that's what it is. It's for teams to perform against opposition that don't get the key very often. And you know, we often see Premier League teams get turned over by lower teams, and it's a good sight for football, especially in the English leagues. So I think if you're going to scrap something like that, you've got to have a pretty good proposal for someone to say yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I do. Adam, I don't know if you heard. I know Gary Neville's putting something together, isn't he? So I know they're trying to put kind of a, I don't know, coalition or something like that together, aren't they? So I imagine they'll be trying to throw a proposal which might be different and maybe some tweaks to what's already been proposed.
Yeah, and knowing Gary Neville as well, he come through that sort of youth system from Salford up to Manchester, and he made his way that way, so he's a big fan of it. He's obviously co-owner at Salford now, so obviously he's got a lot of youth coming through going to Manchester United, so he's going to want to keep that flowing. If they take away cups like EFL cups, then well, where does that leave the youth? Even Premier League youth, where do they get their chances? It's the best chance after that is Europa League, because they're not playing Champions League. So it's it's a difficult one, but I don't think this will go ahead. I mean, Manchester United and Liverpool backing it, and there's only one reason they're backing that. It's financial, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think any of the other Premier League teams have backed it, have they? I think the Premier League are rejecting it themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, not what I've heard. I think the Big Six say they want to even think about backing it. I mean, there's not really a proposal that, like you say, suits the rest of the league, so it is a greedy proposal for the Big Six. Well, the Big Two, if you want to put Liverpool and United in their own category. Yeah,
no, I'd agree. I do, and it would be great to hear some of your comments and stuff like that on you know, these issues, or it feels like an issue at the moment in terms of where we're at. But yeah, it'd be great to hear some of your opinions in the comments, so please do comment on it. Let us know what you're thinking and what your thoughts are, for sure. So yeah, I suppose the next thing we should review then, considering we've just spoke about how the EFL has affected players in the England squad, is a review of the England National League games. Where do we feel England are at the moment in terms of the squad and the football they're playing? What do you think needs to happen, or do England need to change? Does maybe the manager need to change? What do you think, Adam?
With the manager point, I like Gareth. He likes bringing through the youth, which is what we all want to see. We want to see the best talent coming through. But is he the manager that's going to go and win you a World Cup? Probably not. But
it seems like that's being debated, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I like what he's doing. There's a feel-good factor when you watch England play now, or stuff you hear coming out of their camp. It all seems to be pretty positive. So better than it was under someone like Capello, where it was really bad. But no, I think with the players we've got coming through as well, the future's bright. Look at players like Phil Foden, Mason Greenwood. If they behave, they're good players.
Yeah, I agree. And Karl, what's your thoughts? What do you think?
I'd say if you go back a couple of years and you look at the World Cup, I mean, there hasn't been a buzz in this country over a World Cup football like that for a long time. I mean, there was a brilliant team performances. People say we had an easy run, but you can only put down to in front of you, in my eyes. Ever since that World Cup, I'd say he's definitely picked his favourite players. I mean, he's given people opportunities. I mean, you look at when Foden and people got banned from the first game, and he played Grealish, and he played a lot of other players, Saka, give them their first opportunity. I mean, the game flowed against Wales, and it was a brilliant game, good performance. But then, as soon as he got the opportunity to pick his favourite players, I mean, they're straight back in, and the players that are performing well in the leagues and playing for England, and they're not getting that first time pick, they're not getting the support from the manager. It's definitely, he's got his team in his mind, and he'll tweak that slightly, but he's definitely a one-man show, I'd say, when he picks his teams. And maybe his team selection needs to change, or maybe he needs to move aside and let someone in who can maybe develop younger players and bring them in and tweak the team. Maybe there's too many strikers or midfielders that are outdated now or don't belong in the team compared to the youth that are coming through. I mean, are they getting the right opportunities? I don't know. I mean, I've not seen them play as well as we did in the World Cup. Wales was probably a good performance, but that was different players, and it's definitely a sticky one to be an England manager, I'd say.
Yeah, listen, it doesn't matter what you do as an England manager. There's going to be plenty of opinions that won't agree with it. I mean, me personally, I think you're right. I think the kind of feeling that around the World Cup, I felt it brought people together. There was a buzz and kind of excitement. People wanted to go and watch England and support them, which I think was fantastic. But I feel like kind of coming off the back of that, I think Gareth Southgate, I think he's got a fantastic rapport with a lot of the players, and he has given players chances. He's changed his squad a little bit in terms of what he's bringing through. But I think probably one of the biggest questions in regards to England, and I think it doesn't matter what manager has been managing England, is the team picked upon players in form, or is it picked upon players who are at the biggest clubs sometimes? And I think that's probably one of the biggest debates that's always had. For me personally, I think when it comes to kind of major tournaments or certain competitive games, I think the team is probably more picked on or based around players who are at maybe the biggest clubs, or who they feel should fit the stars of England, if that makes sense, even if they're not in form or maybe not producing the best football at that time. I think that's where I struggle. When I look at the situation with Grealish, he's come in for the friendly, done really well, and then you kind of, you want Gareth to give him that opportunity in a competitive game and really push on, and then he kind of doesn't get it. And I just feel like we've gone a little bit more defensive now. I think when you look at the attacking options we have, in terms of kind of wingers, midfielders, creators of opportunities and things like that. Grealish, one of them. You've got people like Foden, Greenwood. I know obviously they had an issue which got them banned from obviously being in England at the time, but for me, I feel like we probably don't utilise them enough, and sometimes we can probably feel quite defensive. But for me, I'd love to see a bit more of attacking football from England.
Well, I mean, if you looked at the England under 21s, I mean, they're performing superb. I mean, the players, Eddie Nketiah, Hudson Odoi, they're playing so well. Do they get opportunities in the first team? Sometimes the under 21s perform better than the first team. I mean, they've definitely got a lot more youth pool of talent there. Can they come across? It's whether Gareth will let them come in and play. There's big ifs and buts, but like I say, it's definitely a sticky one for an England manager. What's your opinions, Adam?
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a difficult one because there's so much talent there, and you've got to try and give the opportunities to everybody when they're all around the same age. It's not an easy job, especially when most of our young talented players like Saka, you got Nketiah, you got Greenwood, you got Foden, you got Sancho, Rashford. There's just so much attacking talent there. It's really hard for them, but I don't know. I think some of them should just be pushed into the under 21s, get their game time, until they are ready to take that next step up. I think, but the future's bright. There's a good problem to have as an England manager. It's great problem. We have got a comment for you. What do you think Southgate's problem is with Grealish?
I thought someone might ask that one.
Yeah.
I'll let you take that one, Karl. What do you think?
I don't necessarily think he's got a problem with him. Definitely not the way he plays football and his style of football. I'd say it's more of a player issue. Like maybe he's not got the right mentality that Gareth wants or attitude towards things. Maybe he's a bit stubborn when it comes to the rules and the things that Southgate tries to put in play. But I wouldn't say he's an issue with him. I wouldn't want to think there was an issue with him. I mean, he's given him the opportunity to play. Yeah, he didn't pick him for the second game, but it's definitely seen now across the nation that he's definitely got the boots that he can fill in that position. And I think he needs a bit more of a opportunity to play, probably a bigger window. But what do you reckon, Karleigh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more Gareth just maybe for whatever reason doesn't have full trust in him, maybe. And I to be honest, I don't know what that is. I think sometimes, listen, Gareth Southgate was a defender, so he probably thinks defensively minded first and foremost. I mean, I would do the same. So maybe he sees things where maybe when Grealish plays, it leaves England a little bit open, maybe, kind of defensively. But what Grealish does bring in terms of forward play and attacking and creating opportunities and chances, I think you've got to weigh up what's going to be more beneficial. And I think England have a good enough team defensively and behind the ball to counteract, if that was to be one of the issues. But I do feel like Grealish, has kind of earned his chance to maybe for it to be given now. I really do.
Can I ask who would your back four be? Preferred back four for England?
What would it be? I think on current form, I think I'd probably take Kyle Walker. I'd probably have Keane. Tyrone Mings, I think I'd play.
Yeah.
And then I don't know who I'd play. I don't know who I'd play at left back if I was going for a 4. I don't know who I'd play. I'd probably say Chilwell at the moment. But I think Bertrand is in and around it as well for me. Crazy well, but I think he's in and around it for me. I think I was going to come onto this, funny enough, but I think kind of Maguire at the moment is obviously dealing with a few different things, and I think that's potentially kind of distracting him in terms of his football. He's got other issues going on and things like that. So I think that's probably playing a bit of a part in terms of his performances not being fantastic at the moment, but that doesn't change that he's still a very, very good defender. He's just going through a tough time, and I think it's probably just helping him through that period and maybe sometimes pulling him out of the limelight just to give him that space that maybe he needs or time.
I agree.
Oh, good stuff. So let's move on to the Premier League. Let's finally get there now. We've done a lot of talking about everything else. So let's talk about the weekend's games. Obviously, Saturday there's some fantastic games. I think the game we've got to kick off with is Everton v Liverpool.
Big game.
Yeah, massive game. A few decisions and whatnot given. What was your thoughts on the game and kind of how it was?
For me, I mean, that was one of the biggest Merseyside derbies going. I mean, normally Liverpool's miles ahead, but the start of the season, I know it's only a couple of games in, but Everton look a strong side, real strong side. Liverpool had that big loss against Villa. I was curious to see how they bounced back from that, what kind of mentality they put into the game. I mean, they had a few decisions not going for their way. I mean, the Van Dijk decision, was it a penalty? Was it offside? The foul. I mean, you could dive into that for a couple of hours and really want to talk about it. The Calvert-Lewin situation at Everton, I think he's definitely bossing it up top. Definitely bossing. I think the way they came back into that game, it was open. It was end to end, and it was definitely exciting to watch as a neutral and as a fan. So definitely a big game, good one to watch to kick off the start of the Premier League. Yeah, no, I agree. Adam, what do you think?
Well, that was a whirlwind, wasn't it? That game yesterday. On the Pickford Van Dijk collision, as I'll say. I think it's difficult because his arm is offside, and
Yeah.
I've always gone with the offside rule that if it's part of your body that you can play the ball with, then you're offside, and you clearly can't play the ball with your arm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really agree with that. He probably should have been sent. Well, he definitely should have been sent off Pickford, and that changes the course of the game completely.
Yeah.
The goals are pretty good. Calvert-Lewin's obviously bossing it. Ancelotti's giving that new lease of life. Rodriguez, Allen, and Decore just completely transformed their whole team. They've got so much confidence coming through the middle. They trust their back four, and they know Calvert-Lewin is there. Anytime they whip the ball in the box, he's got a great header on him. But with the winning goal that was ruled offside, I don't know. I mean, I don't really get how that was offside. When you look at the image, you can't see an offside. You can't even, what was it? A tip of an elbow? Was it? I honestly don't know. I don't know what do you think it is.
No, I agree. For me, VAR is VAR's been brought in to help the game and help make decisions better, I suppose, and easier. But I feel like it's making everything harder. I feel like the power is being taken away from the officials now. The linesman can't even put his flag up until the play's finished, which I think is also causing a bit of an issue. But for me, some of the offsides and some of the decisions that are being given off the back of VAR are astonishing. And I feel like it is having more of a negative effect on the game than a positive one. Which is disappointing. Here's a question for you. So, with Everton, do you think Everton could almost do what Leicester did a few years ago? I think, they've obviously started very well. It's extremely early, but the way they seem to be playing, their performance against Liverpool, getting themselves back into the game, they kind of have that team spirit and that belief, and they're set up very well. Carlo Ancelotti's a fantastic manager who's won things. He's been there and done it, hasn't he? Do you think Everton could be dark horses to cause a massive upset this year?
I'd say I'd put money on it. I'd put money on it. I'd definitely say they're a dark horse. 100%. I mean, you look at the way they're performing, even in international duties, the individual players. I mean, James Rodriguez, what a buy he was. No one thought he would go through, and it did. I mean, he's picking out assists, goals. He looks brilliant in the centre there. Calvert-Lewin, he's definitely booking it. I mean, I'll definitely put money on him to do well this season, if not challenge. So.
Nice. What do you think, Adam? You with that?
I'm probably going to go for no on this one. Reluctantly. I'd like them to do it, but Liverpool and Man City are so strong. Their squads are so big. If Everton get a couple of injuries, that's going to be hard to keep up the form they're in with their injuries. They don't have the depth in their squad. But I would say they're definitely going to get top four with Ancelotti in charge. Definitely. I've got no doubt about that.
I think top four's a possibility for them for sure. I think, like you mentioned there, actually, I think the key thing for them is going to be injuries. I think if they do lose Calvert-Lewin, Rodriguez, Decore, someone like that, I think that will have a big effect on kind of what they do from there. Because I don't think the strength in depth is the same as a Liverpool or a Manchester City. So I think that will affect them in the long run. But I think if they manage to keep this team injury free for as long as possible, I think they've got a chance of finishing the top four and maybe even really causing an upset within the league.
Yeah.
What about Liverpool? What about Liverpool though? I mean, Alisson's not there. Van Dijk's just had a horrific injury. Where's that put them? That's two key players. I mean, Adrian don't really look that confident in goal, does he?
No.
Van Dijk's their rock. I mean, Joe Gomez is going to have a big weight on his shoulders now. I mean, what's going to happen there? Are they going to be as dominant as they were last season, or?
I don't think Liverpool will. I think Van Dijk and Alisson especially. I think that's going to have a massive effect on them. I really do. And I think teams will look to exploit that now. In terms of how they play against Liverpool. I think obviously it was a one-off game, but I think what Aston Villa exploited in Liverpool in terms of their high line and things like that, I think more teams are going to try and do that. It would be interesting to see if they play such a high line now, with the likes of Van Dijk not being there. But I think they could hit some troubled waters ahead with those two missing.
100.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, carry on. Sorry, carry on.
That's all right. So obviously, another game that I thought was a fantastic game. You've got Chelsea versus Southampton. Chelsea, I'm not sure about Chelsea at the moment. I think going forward they look good. Timo, I think he's been a fantastic signing for them. He seems to be full of energy, wants to get goals, works his socks off, got great quality. Chelsea have spent some money in the window, but they don't look complete. Obviously, I know they've got problems with Kepa, and they brought a goalkeeper and he's now injured. Kepa's back in the team against Southampton, ends up conceding 3 again, involved in one of the goals with maybe part to play in a mistake. But Chelsea look defensively, especially, they look shaky to me. What's your thoughts?
I'd agree. I'd definitely say going forwards, they're phenomenal. Timo Werner, what a break he had. That second goal, he created that himself. The assist was great, but the way he controlled the ball and got that goal was brilliant. But like you say, their back four is not as strong as it is, or what it used to be. Kepa, he's letting the most goals go in. To be playing for Chelsea as well, such a keeper. He's a young age as well, to be fair to him. But is this going to damage his confidence so much that he's not going to be able to bounce back the next week? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. It was almost similar to when De Gea come over, isn't it? When De Gea first come to Man United, he was kind of lightweight, made quite a few mistakes at the beginning, didn't he? I wonder, do you feel like he's going to grow and maybe turn it around like how he has, or not? What do you think, Adam? Do you think Kepa has the ability to do that and turn it around like De Gea did, or do you think he won't be there for much longer?
I think he's got the ability to turn it around. He's shown glimpses of what he can do, but his decision making is just it's terrible at the moment, and it doesn't help. Social media, everyone gets on him. It's probably it was a bit easier for De Gea back then. He's not. Yeah. He's not getting the same stick as Kepa is, and then Kepa's got the added. He refused to come off in a cup final as well, which the fans are always going to jump on him now. And I think someone at Chelsea needs to look at themselves when they're going to pay 71 million for a goalkeeper that's unproven as well. So I don't know if that's a panic buy. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely an issue that needs addressing, the keeper issue. Whether Mendy is going to come in and fight for that spot. I thought Caballero would have, but Caballero is a great cup keeper, especially for the shootouts. So I imagine he'll play that, and Mendy and Kepa will play Champions League, just fighting for that, number one spot.
Yeah, no, agreed. Just briefly touching on Southampton, Hussein Hartel has really changed things around there, hasn't he?
I'd say so. He's really relying on Danny Ings at the minute to come through with the goods. It's good to see Theo Walcott back there and getting the equaliser in the game. It's good. It's good to see talent going back to where the club's come from, loyalty showing there. He's definitely turning things around. It was a good way to come back into a game like that. Against Chelsea, that's a tough opposition to definitely equalise the game. So 100%, I definitely think he's doing good movements down there.
Stuff. Adam, what do you think? Do you think he's? They've got a really good kind of base, don't they? Now they've got Ings, they've brought Walcott in, you've got Redmond. They've got some fantastic players there.
Yeah, definitely. They've got some great players, and I think the big turning point for him was the 9-0 defeat to Leicester last season. Ever since then, they've performed week in, week out. Look at the back end of last season. They pulled out some great results, and I think at one point they were looking somewhere near the top 6. So that's he's done great with them. And this season, I think they had a couple of dodgy results at the start, but their performances, they look like they've picked up a bit, definitely. So, with Theo Walcott coming in, Danny Ings is just, he does what Danny Ings does. And he's obviously back in the England squad now, so he's only going to get better with confidence and things like that. So, yeah, I think they got. I think they're going to have a good season.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what they do. Actually, it'll be interesting. It feels like a lot of the teams that are so-called lower down are starting to kind of turn things around, and the bigger teams are almost getting caught up a little bit. It feels like this season, especially with the start of things.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I can see that happening in the league quite a lot this season.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. So moving on, a tough one for me to talk about being an Arsenal fan, but Man City versus Arsenal. What do we think of the game? How do we think it went?
I mean, for me, I'm a gooner myself, so 100% Mikel Arteta's putting in some good work. Definitely changed the mentality of the team. I mean, City are dominant anyway. I mean, for me as an Arsenal fan, when you see City away, that's either a draw or a loss. I mean, we haven't won a big away game since 2015 against the Big Six. So,
yeah,
to go there and put up a fight like we did, I mean, we let a silly goal come in. We definitely challenged a lot better in the second half. They didn't have a lot of ability from goal. I mean, it's good to see Thomas Partey come in, players that are wanting to sign for the squad. But like Pep Guardiola, he's a mastermind behind football. His team's brilliant. Raheem Sterling, Aguero have definitely come back in from an injury now. They look dangerous. I mean, it wasn't an easy game. We didn't roll over, but it's definitely one to work on, and City look like they can progress from this.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Arsenal do look a better team, don't they, since Arteta's come in and the way he's kind of instilled things and changed things. Do you feel? I mean, Arsenal had a decent window, to be fair. Do you feel that they're closer to maybe finishing in the top four and challenging for the title again? Adam, what do you think?
They're definitely closer than last season. I think they're gonna. There's so many teams fighting for that top four spot. You got the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Man United, Everton, and maybe Wolves as well. Depends on how they get on their next few games. But yeah, it's going to be a tough fight for the top four this year. I know it went to the wire last season with Man United and Chelsea. But Arsenal have improved massively. Arteta's done a great job at the moment. Hopefully, he keeps that going. These players seem to look up to him. He got Aubameyang signed his contract, which nobody thought he was going to do. So, I think it's a bright future for Arsenal.
Oh, good, interesting. So, before we move on, I just want to obviously say, keep commenting, keep liking. We love hearing your comments. It's great to interact, so keep doing it. And also, our sponsors, Moss Bros, are offering 15% for anyone who uses the code at the top right-hand side of your screen. So this is a great opportunity to go and get yourself a new suit. Get suited and booted, even if you do have to stay at home at the moment, but it's worth getting your suit while you can. So yeah, obviously really appreciate the sponsorship from Moss Bros. It's fantastic. But moving into the rest of the games, obviously you had Newcastle, Manchester United, which Man United seemed like they come and put on a good performance, a 4-1 victory, which is fantastic for United. Rashford was on fire. How did you feel that game went? And my biggest thing, where do you feel Newcastle are at? Because I do worry about Newcastle.
For me, I think Newcastle are on the right track. I mean, they're getting players like Callum Wilson that can come in and cause an upset for teams. I think it's definitely a good signing. Are they shy of 4 or 5 players to get them certified back into the Premier League? I'd say yeah. Can they cause upsets this season? Yeah. But are they going to have a good season? I can't see them having a good season, to be honest. I mean, I reckon they're definitely fighting to keep out of relegation this season. They can't improve and make things better, which is an upset because they are a good team. I mean, they've got a lot of history in that club. And it'd be a shame to see them go down, but they need to fight definitely fight this season to make sure everything's all right.
Yeah, no, I agree. You look at and you think about Newcastle of old and players they've had, Ginola, Shearer, Asprilla, and Andy Cole. You look at some of the players they've had and what the club kind of used to be and represent. It almost feels a bit of a shell of that club now, doesn't it? Which I hope they do kind of get back to those levels, and obviously I think they're a massive club for the Premier League. A massive following, such a big club with such great history. You want them to be in it, don't you? Really.
Yeah.
On Man United, Adam, good performance today. Obviously, I think you might be a Man United fan. Am I right?
Yes,
yeah.
mate.
So you was a happy man. I thought so. So you was a happy man yesterday.
Yeah.
Then, what's your feelings on the Manchester United team at the moment, and obviously kind of what's going on with Ollie, and he's dividing opinion, isn't he? So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation at the moment. Everything's just negative around Manchester United, around the manager, around transfers, around Harry Maguire. Touching on Ollie, I mean, to be fair, he shouldn't have been anywhere near the Man United job anyway.
Yeah,
he should have come in, took care of the team. Got them as high as they could, and then someone, a big name comes in. It's Man United. You can't have a small name at Man United, especially when it comes to signing players, because they struggle to get them. Things like that. But I mean, last season we ended the season really well. I know it was the restart that we performed well, but going into the new season we should have been high confidence, but it seems to just be negative because of Sancho, because we couldn't get a central defender. We ended up signing two 18-year-olds that, let's be honest, no one's ever heard of. And we signed a 33-year-old striker that hasn't played in 8 months. So when fans look at that, they're going to be negative towards Ollie. I think he's probably taken him as far as he can take him. But
yeah,
that's but the team, they've got to grow into the season, especially with everything with Harry Maguire. They seemed to show glimpses last night, but it was still a concern that it took so long to find that goal to go in front. I think the 86th minute, which is obviously concerning because we had over 60% possession. I think we had like 28 shots on goal. It took us until the 86th minute to take the lead, which is worrying. I know it's an away game, Newcastle away, it's big ground. Newcastle for me have always been a big team up until last sort of 10-15 years, when they started becoming a bit of a yo-yo club. But that's the way it is at the moment. I've got a couple of questions regarding some of the games we talked about, if you want me to go through them.
Yeah, great.
So we got one comment saying Arteta is showing he is a better manager than Ollie. What do you think of
that? I think at the moment, I think their circumstances are different in terms of things behind the scenes at the club. I think Ollie probably has to deal with a slightly different or different difficulties in terms of the support he gets in the transfer window, how their transfers are done. I think Ollie has to deal with more problems in that scenario. I think Arteta's been given more backing in terms of he's been allowed to go and get who he wants. I'm not always sure Ollie is able to do that. I think things have to change at Manchester United in the setup and how things are done for sure, because I don't feel like it's fully cohesive and everyone's on the same page. I'd definitely say that. But in terms of things on the pitch, it does look like Arteta is instilling what he wants in terms of from his team, and looks like he's doing well at the moment. And I think now it's about how can he continue to do that.
Yeah.
This has definitely been an interesting transfer season for United and Arsenal, I'd say. We don't really have the best of luck in most windows, but United were definitely quiet. For the first time in a long time they've been quiet. I mean, they've not signed big money signings, big names, but they've got a lot of youth in their team. Is Ollie the right person to coach and get them in that right frame of mind to challenge again? Maybe not. Is it time for him to leave? Personally, I'd say yeah. But who are they going to have to replace him? I mean, is that a job that anyone's going to try and grasp. To me, definitely, but there's not a lot of managers out there available at the minute that can come in and take that position. So has he got a big job on his hands? 100%. Are they going to do well this season? I mean, that's going to be a tricky one. Definitely for me. I mean, it might have the season we had last season. It might repeat itself, but
yeah,
be interesting to see. What do you reckon, Adam, on that?
Well, yeah, very, very interesting. Sorry, I was just reading some of these comments that are flying in now. I don't know if you want to get into some of them.
Yeah,
there's a lot to get through.
Yeah, let's crack through some comment.
Yeah, so we got some disagreement with us about Arsenal. Yeah, this guy doesn't think they're top 4 material, top 6 at best. What do you think of that?
Top 6 at best. I'm an Arsenal fan, so I'm going to say that top 4. I think Arsenal were best placed and in the best place they've been for a few years to really challenge and look like they could make top 4 this season. When I look around at the other teams, listen, Liverpool have been unbelievable, but with the knocks they've taken in terms of not having Van Dijk now, obviously keeper not being there as well, how is that going to affect them in the long run? That could be a massive issue defence to be for them. They've already they seem to be conceding more, and teams seem to be creating more chances against them. Are they going to be punished for that over the full season? Everton look good at the moment. They potentially cause an upset in the top 4. Chelsea don't look fantastic. Attacking wise, again, they look great, but defensively they don't look fantastic. I think Arsenal have probably looked a little bit more solid as a team than they have done for a long time. I think about, you look at Man City yesterday. That's a game where Arsenal potentially go and lose 2-3-0. Whereas they've defended reasonably well, minimised their chances and things like that. And I think they are in one of the best places they've been for a long time to kind of hit the top 4, personally.
Definitely. I mean, on that back 3 Mikel's brought in, it's working. I mean, David Luiz looked a clown at some points by himself back then. Now he's got a bit more protection by Gabriel, and we've got William Saliba who's not started yet. But our back 4 looks good. I mean, our front 3 and our midfield, we've got so much depth. I mean, we've got Eddie Nketiah. Don't forget we've got Gabriel Martinelli who's not even playing at the minute. Aubameyang is probably the best striker in the Premier League. Pepe, we signed William from Chelsea. I mean, Lacazette can turn up on a big game. We've got loads of players that can challenge. One, they're all singing on the same song sheet. I'd like to say we can challenge for the top 4. It's definitely going to be an interesting one this season. It's probably our best opportunity to get back to the Champions League for the last 5 years. And as an Arsenal fan, I'd like to say yes. I can understand what people would say no, but definitely top 4 for me. Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Arsenal will get in top 4 if they keep up, the solidity that Arteta's got them going at the moment. Aubameyang keeps firing. I think I spoke to you yesterday, Karl, about probably playing Pepe through the middle. I think that would give you a much better attacking threat because he's not having much joy down the left. I think if you got him firing through the middle and he was banging in goals, I think that would improve you much more this season, attacking wise. Defensively, you're good, and you've got so many to choose from. So I think Arsenal have probably got more chance than Chelsea, Man United, them sorts of teams to get in that top 4 spot.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. I'd agree with that for sure. Any more comments?
Yeah, loads. It's all Liverpool fans though. So you can just imagine what they're saying. So what do we think of Leno?
Leno.
Yeah.
This is a sticky situation.
Yeah.
Emi Martinez, what a keeper he was. At the end of that season, he was a brilliant keeper. I mean, Aston Villa have gained themselves a quality keeper. Bernd Leno has his down moments. People say he can't catch the ball. He puts himself in sticky situations, playing out from the back. I mean, you look at his performances in recent games. He pulls off some magnificent saves, brilliant saves. is he our number one? Oh yeah, Mikel showed his confidence in him. Definitely, he can take us forwards. I mean, he's only young for a keeper as well. He's not like old. He can definitely got a lot more learning in him. He's got a lot more years to show what he's good at and what he can do for the team. It was a shame to lose Martinez, but I mean, Leno, you've got to keep faith in him. He's a good keeper on his heyday. What about you, Karleigh?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think Leno is a good keeper. I look at keepers at the moment, and I look at kind of the big six, so to speak. I'd probably take him out of most of them. Kepa at the moment struggling. Obviously, I know they've brought in a new one, but Kepa's struggling. De Gea's going through a little bit of bad form as well, and has been for a little while. Liverpool aren't in the strongest place with keepers at the moment. Pickford, the way Everton has started, but Pickford looks like he can have a mistake in him at times. Leno does, of course. I think most keepers do. If they make a mistake, they are usually punished. But Leno's pulled off some fantastic saves, pulled off some great ones recently. So for me, I think he's all right. I think he's good. I like him.
Yeah, I thought. I got to be honest. I prefer Martinez. I've never seen a backup keeper be thrown into the mix and have such a solid impact as much as he did. I mean, you got Romero, that was a great backup keeper at United. Always played well whenever he played, but Martinez is just, he was something else. I got to be honest, I prefer him to Leno. He's such a big guy as well. He's got such a big frame, and he can, some of the saves he was making, keeping Arsenal in the games last season, and yeah, I really enjoyed watching him. To be fair,
his dedication to Arsenal was unreal. Yeah. I mean, he's been there from such a young age, and his confidence when he started getting into the first team and playing for us. I mean, especially when Leno got injured, his confidence was phenomenal. I've never seen their backup keeper come into a game and boss it and dominate like he did. So definitely was a shame to lose him. I wouldn't have wanted to lose him, but we did. But Leno, I'd say I'm confident that he can take us forward, definitely.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Some more comments to go through. Go for a couple more, and then we'll finish up.
Yeah. So I've got a comment just come in. Said Leno is a top keeper. So is Martinez. But if Leno doesn't get injured, we wouldn't got as much as we did for Martinez from Villa. Do you agree with that?
That's a good point. To be fair.
Yeah.
Some really good comments there. So let's finish off with the games. I think probably the game that stood out for me most today would have been the Tottenham West Ham game. Tottenham obviously started off with a 3-0 lead. I think there was 3-0 up in 16 minutes, I think, was it? Something like that?
Yeah, 16.
Yeah, started electrically, didn't they? Harry Kane started fantastically. 2 goals, 1 assist. But West Ham have managed to claw themselves back into the game and have got themselves a draw. What's your views on Tottenham at the moment? I think Jose Mourinho always gets a lot of criticism, doesn't he, for his style of football. And obviously with Tottenham adding Bale in now as well, who missed a golden opportunity to put his name in lights straight away. What's your thoughts on Tottenham, Karl?
That's a good question. I mean, Tottenham, they've looked real good in the last couple of seasons. I will give them that. I mean, Son and Kane are brilliant up top. I mean, you add Bale into that, and that's a good trio. Harry Kane looks amazing in a Tottenham shirt. He can assist, he can score. I mean, Son's shown it in the Champions League. He's brilliant. I mean, are they short at the defence? Definitely. I mean, did they deserve to win the game? Probably, but I mean, you've got to give it to West Ham. I mean, that Lanzini goal, wow.
That was fantastic.
Bring that back. I mean, Tottenham have definitely got a lot of ups and downs recently. They've got a lot to look forward to as a team. They've got a brilliant manager. They definitely need a few more players. I don't think they're quite where they were when Poch was there, but I mean, they've got a good squad. They can definitely challenge for a lot of things. They need to win some silverware. I think that's their biggest issue. Once they've got a bit of silverware behind them, they can get their confidence and build on that. They've not won so many years now. It's almost a re coming back thing. They always bottle it. That's what they're known as, the bottlers. But
Yeah.
maybe they can turn it around this season and win something. So
It'd be interesting for sure. What's your thoughts, Adam, in terms of where Tottenham are at, and I suppose also West Ham? How do you think West Ham are going to do? Because although on the back of things, this performance probably for part of the game was good, obviously in terms of them making and coming back, but I do worry about West Ham personally. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, with Tottenham, I've probably got a view you're going to disagree with completely.
Yeah.
I think with Jose, he's added in the defensive reinforcements this year. He's obviously got Bale back in, which gives them that extra attacking threat. I've got to be honest, I think they're one of 3 teams that are going to challenge for the title, personally.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I'd say so. You know, when Jose gets that player he wants, he gets the best out of him. And as long as things stay happy in the camp, in the Jose camp, he hasn't been there for years yet, so he won't be getting sacked this year. But with West Ham, I got to be honest, they're so inconsistent because they started off the first 2 games really poorly this season, and then they got them 2 great results after that in a row. I think just after David Moyes went down with COVID-19, and then today it was really weird. They went 3-0 down 16 minutes. I watched them second half and they just come out all guns blazing, and they got the 3 goals. They had a chance right at the start of the second half where they should have scored. Potentially there was more goals in it. It's just one of them. But then you've got to worry for Tottenham that they're letting a 3-0 lead slip, which is quite worrying for Mourinho, who loves his clean sheets. But yeah, with West Ham, it's worrying because this seems to happen the same every season. They're so up and down. The fans are on their backs. No one likes the owners, and they just seem to go around in circles every year. I don't know. But what do you think about the owner situation with the fans?
Yeah, they've always had that split for quite a while, haven't they? And I think that does cause them some issues and some problems. But I think the West Ham job is a tough job anyway. I think in terms of how the club is at, I always feel like West Ham have bigger expectations than they should, as harsh as that might sound. I always feel like they should be in kind of the top half or the top 8, shall we say. I never quite feel like their performances and maybe the squad they have represents those expectations. But it'd be interesting. They're one of the teams I probably do worry about with their inconsistency, like you said, Adam. They seem to be inconsistent year upon year. But Moyes is a good manager. What he done at Everton was fantastic. Didn't have a great time at Manchester United, but what he's done at Everton, what he did at Everton was fantastic. Maybe West Ham's a club where he can kind of redo that again.
Yeah. I got to say, we got some breaking news in. For the Leicester Aston Villa game. Ross Barkley scored a 91st minute winner to win it 1-0 for Villa. So that.
Okay. Villa.
That now.
No, we might as well move on to that game. I think. What's your thoughts on Villa? Because last year, obviously, they just stayed up. I remember Roy Keane hammering them after a game when they were celebrating about. They looked like they'd just won the league. They've only just managed to stay up. But they kind of started this season really well. They've added to their squad. They brought in Ollie Watkins, who's a fantastic signing. He seems to have hit the ground running as well. They brought in Ross Barkley. You've got Grealish. What do you think Villa will do this season, Adam?
That's hard to tell at the moment. I mean, they've played 4 games. They've won 4. They're sat second in the table at the moment, which is amazing considering they were probably fortunate to stay in the league last year, especially down to that goal line decision, which potentially would have kept Bournemouth in the league. It was that tight. But this season, I just don't know. I don't know because I don't even think they're conceding that many goals. I mean, they went and beat Liverpool 7-2. I mean, how many teams can say that? He's definitely got him. He's got him playing well. I think he made a couple of good signings. I think he got a striker in. Obviously, he got Bartlett in, which Bartlett improves any team in the bottom half of the league.
For sure,
definitely. It's looking good for them, but they need to keep it up. And they are a massive team in England that need to be in the Premier League. They can't be a Championship team. I think they're one of the first teams to win the European trophy, I believe.
Yeah, I think they were.
What do you think, Karl?
For me, I mean, Villa look real promising this season. Really, really promising, and it's good to see the way they've bounced back from the misery of the season last year. But they've come back hungry, and for me, they got some key players there that are really performing, and they look real dangerous on the counter attack. And like you say, they're not conceding many goals, and I can see them going pretty well this season. Definitely an improvement for last. I'd like to see them do well. Hopefully they can.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting for sure. So just to briefly round off the last couple of games, we'll go Sheffield United v Fulham. I think it's worrying times for Fulham already. We've only just kind of started the season. Probably a good result for them in terms of getting a draw, getting a point on the board, and maybe something they can build from. Sheffield United look a little bit shaky this year as well, actually, considering the season they had last season. Chris Wilder's obviously come in there and he's done a fantastic job, hasn't he? He really galvanised them. But they've made a few signings in the window. It'd be good to see how they kind of fit into the team and what they do. Where do you see Sheffield United finishing and where do you see Fulham finishing, Karl?
For me, I'd say Fulham relegation. Got to be relegation. Sheffield, I'd like to see them do a little bit better than that. Maybe try and challenge to stay up and definitely be better than Fulham. I could say that for sure. I mean, it's a difficult one to say. There's not really many games in the league, but they are two good teams that can definitely cause an upset. But Fulham, for me, they need to improve. They need to improve fast. Definitely.
Yeah. Adam, what do you feel? I always feel like with Fulham, I don't know what it is, but I always feel like they're always kind of just a little bit away from it, aren't they? Almost just in between, almost like sort of too good for the champ, but not necessarily right for the Prem. It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, Fulham. It's difficult because I think they've done this a couple of years ago. They come up, spent millions. I think they bought like 11 or 13 new players when they came up.
Yeah, I think they spent 100 million that year.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money. Obviously the players didn't gel well together and they went straight back down. And this season they spent a little less money, but I'm pretty sure that might be down to the COVID situation, the financial situation. But they just, I don't know, looking at their team, I would replace 3 of the back 4. I'd replace most of their midfield. I've got to be honest, you replace most of that team. It's just not good enough for Premier League standard. Fulham, but they're another team where I grew up and Fulham were always a Premier League team. I think the Premier League is where they belong, but with that team, I think they're just a good Championship side at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And then final game, which is a bit of a derby actually, Palace v Brighton. I think that game ended 1-1, did it? A few decisions in that game, to be fair. Soft penalty for Palace. Brighton kind of getting a red card, didn't they? I think Lewis Dunk got sent off for a bit of a crazy tackle. I don't think there was any malice in it, but I think he just misjudged it. How do you think Palace are going to do this year, Adam?
That's another good question. See, that first game against Man United, Palace looked incredible. Either that or United were just really poor. They weren't the best.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're another team, kind of like a West Ham, where they're capable of pulling a big result out of the bag, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it's quite dull. It's quite negative. When I think they've got the players to hit the top 8 in their squad.
Yeah.
I think they've got. I think Palace are definitely a top 10 team. I think they're probably underachieving by a lot. But I think when you've got Roy Hodgson as manager, I don't think you're going to go and get top 6 or top 4 with a team like that. I think where they are, stable Premier League team, I think that's the best they're getting, unfortunately. But yeah.
Sorry, go on, Karl.
So that's been them for most of their Premier League history. Just taking team in recent years. I mean, they've got players like Zaha that can go on to bigger clubs and definitely challenge for things. But Roy Hodgson, I don't think he's the right man to take them forwards. I mean, I don't think they're going to achieve any more than what they can do at the minute. I mean, they probably have a good run in the cup, but in the Premier League, they haven't got a chance. I mean, they really need to sort something out there, because no Palace fan wants to see them just challenge for the same position each year. It's
I was going to ask you that, actually. I was going to say, what do you think? Do you think Palace fans are happy with kind of where they're at and just being in the Premier League, and kind of just almost feels a bit like they're just making up the numbers, doesn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, they're just one of the teams that when the season rolls out, you expect to see Palace on the table, but they need more than that. As a Palace fan, they definitely want more than that, and it's definitely their time is coming, and I'd like to see them challenge for something. Definitely Roy Hodgson, maybe a bit of a managerial swap there or something to improve the team, definitely.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And just to finish off, Brighton, how do you think Brighton are going to do this year? Obviously, they've had some good performances, not necessarily the results to match, but they've had some good performances. What's your thoughts on Brighton, Karl?
I like Brighton. I think they've got some good players, and they can cause a lot of upset when they put their minds to it. I think, are they as good as Palace? They're probably on par, but they've not got the same amount of history Palace has got. But definitely they can do a lot more if they really wanted to. I mean, they probably need to buy a few more players. I think the manager's got a good plan, good head on his shoulders. They've got a good team, like ethos, and definitely need to do a bit more. But I like Brighton. I think they're a good team to watch.
Yeah, they are. I'd agree with that. They are a good team to watch. Your thoughts, Adam?
Brighton are really good. I like it. I like the manager, Graham Potter. I thought he'd done a good job with I can't remember the name of the team now.
Swansea.
He was managing.
Swansea.
I think he was abroad, wasn't he? Managing the team.
Yeah, he was abroad, and then he went to Swansea, then he went to Brighton, I think.
Yeah. I quite like him as a manager. Brighton this season, I think they look a bit more physical. They look a bit more built, like a Premier League team. Kind of like a Stoke City. That sort of club, but they've got a bit more quality to them. I don't expect Brighton to be fighting for relegation this season. I think they're going to be safe. I think they've got a good squad. As long as they get them results together, because they're playing well, they're just not getting them results. So as soon as results will come, as soon as they get the results, I think they'll be mid-table, just below mid-table.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that, to be fair. Listen, that rounds up the games. I think probably a bit of a longer show than we was expecting, but it's been fantastic. Once again, our sponsors, Moss Bros, they'll be offering 15% discount, so make sure you use that code and get your 15%. I think just before we finish up, is there any more comments to go through? I think it would be good to hear more from people watching and stuff.
Yeah, got a couple of people that think Villa are going to do a Leicester and win the league at the moment.
I'm guessing they're Villa fans.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. One of them's a Liverpool fan, one of them's a Arsenal fan.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I don't know if I see Villa winning the league, but it would be good to have them up there for as long as possible. Right? It makes the league more exciting with teams like Everton challenging, Villa challenging. If they can keep the form that they've got at the moment, it can definitely cause an upset for sure. Be interesting and good for the league, I think.
Yeah. Another one, I'm pretty sure this is from a Liverpool fan. It says Sheffield United have got Brewster, so I expect them to stay up.
Fair enough. There's definitely added quality. They've got Ethan Ampadu as well, which I think is great quality for them. I think it's just going to, once they settle down, it will be interesting to see how they do. But I think on the back of the results and kind of how they started, it's worrying times for them, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think
Good.
losing.
Any more?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Rounded up nicely. We've had a good amount of views, loads of comments actually, lots. Haven't been able to get through them all. Otherwise, we were doing a whole show on just comments. But no, that's it's gone pretty well.
Fantastic. Well, we'll round it off and we'll finish it up. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been fantastic. Adam and Karl, thank you for joining me. It's been a great show. Really enjoyed it. It's a great chat, and I look forward to doing it again next week. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. We love hearing your views, and of course, it's been a pleasure, boys. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Anyways,
Thank
you.
Good stuff. Have a good week. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Have a good night.
Cheers, mate.
Take care. See you later.